go with a 1-1, to be honest. I'm normally quite optimistic, but I just think Chelsea's can be a really difficult game.
Missed opportunity hours later, but let's go through it. Arsenal won, Chelsea won. I think where Arsenal lost the game in the first half was how technically loose they were. They were so sloppy on the ball. The only time I've really seen that in the last few years with Arsenal was Newcastle away in the Cup and Man United at Old Trafford early on the season. I've not really seen that little ability on the ball technically for a good while, and I feel like Hincapié and Mosquera just really struggled to get their foot on the ball, calm things down, and I think that just set the tempo for the rest of the game for Arsenal. Our biggest pet peeve in football is when you have time on the ball and you just hoof it long. And I felt like that's what we were doing a lot of the time. We were in completely comfortable situations and just launching the ball long. We didn't want to play out. We were basically creating stress and panic by just kicking the ball long all the time. The Caicedo red card really flipped the game in Arsenal's favour because it didn't feel like we were really in the game in a huge way. I thought Chelsea by far the better team, really, really good from themselves. But the rest of the game, you have as much time as we did, 38th minute or so the red card was, and we just didn't capitalise on the man advantage. I felt we took Eze off too soon, even though he wasn't really in the game in a big way. I felt once he came off, we really struggled to create anything. We really struggled to properly get our foot on the ball and sustain pressure. I'm not entirely sure we squeezed Chelsea high enough either. I feel like the game was quite open. They had far more transition opportunities than I would have liked. And a point at Stamford Bridge in isolation is really not a bad result. It's kind of what I anticipated. But a point at Stamford Bridge when Moises Caicedo gets sent off in the 38th minute is just really frustrating. But it happens. An off day, no doubt, for Arsenal. But as I say, my biggest frustrations was how just the technical level was so far off it. We didn't quite move the ball quick enough, I feel like. I feel like Saka was a bit wasteful. He was kind of, it always felt like it was going to be a winger's game, not a central game, and that's kind of how it turned out. But unfortunately, Trossard was a huge miss, obviously not being fit for the game. And Bukayo Saka, fantastic bit of play. I think he had the better of Kukurea all the time, but unfortunately, that last action was just missing. A far from ideal game to have a bit of an underperformance in, but at the same time, it's not completely surprising after Bayern and Spurs, and there's been a lot of crazy reactions, and I think it's because we're so emotionally invested in the Premier League title, and so much so to the point where every single time we win, it's we're the best team on the planet, and every time we lose, it's or drop points, it's what is going on, and over hyperbole that way too. For me, it's just a frustrating game where Arteta did the right things, but the players, unfortunately, just couldn't quite take ownership in that game. They didn't get their foot on the ball enough. There wasn't really enough players who wanted to properly force the issue. I do have to say, by the way, Reece James was out of this world good. And I also would have brought on Ben White at half time. I just think we needed that technical security, that composure on the ball, which unfortunately a new centre back partnership which we had just didn't quite offer. What do you think of the game?